Hi everybody, good morning. Happy February 1st. We are thawing out in Chicago after a couple days of very cold temperatures, sub-zero. But as you can see behind me, the city is back to work. It's a balmy 17 degrees and getting warmer. So it's been an interesting week, a little challenging because a lot of people had to stay at home in our office, but we are all back and everybody actually is happy to be back. So what have we been doing? Yesterday, I went and saw a client. Her husband passed away from lung cancer, and he had been a Local 17 insulator. Local 17 is the number for the heat and frost workers, is another way to call it, another name they use. And he died of lung cancer from his years and years of exposure to asbestos pipe covering and insulation that he used starting in the 1970s. So that was it's always a difficult, challenging meeting when you talk to a widow about why they lost their loved one. But luckily, he had a lot of coworkers, so even though he's already passed, we are going to be able to take the case and work it up step by step from there. And then today I'm actually headed up to Barrington. I'm going to meet a client who is in the end stages of the cancer. And I don't know where he works yet, so it'll be a good meeting and try to figure out that case one step at a time. That's all you can do. These cases always present their own challenges and their own investigations. But it keeps me busy and I love it, and I love to get to know all these families. We're also in a couple weeks going to go to the Union for Life up in Michigan. And I've talked about that a little bit in the past couple sessions that were based in Chicago, but we file cases from all over the nation. And another area of interest has been Michigan lately. So we're going to donate to the University of Michigan Cancer Center through that. And then we've also partnered up with the Willis Law Firm, which is exciting. They have offices in Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, and Muskegon, I believe. And they're going to help us with some of our Michigan cases. We filed our first case in Michigan last month, and so we'll be looking to have that up for trial in 2019. And so it's been a lot of really cool developments and a lot of interesting work. It's always challenging, which for people that like to work, it is great. So today we're going to talk about talc, and everybody's always talking about talc, especially in the news media. Johnson & Johnson had a big verdict against them for $4.7 billion, and the trial judge affirmed that verdict recently, last week. It has to go through appeals, and that will take probably a couple of years. But it's a really hot topic, and some of you may be wondering, why is it a hot topic? What does it all mean? Because almost all of us at some point have been around baby powder, whether we're applying it to ourselves or a baby. And it comes from a talc mine, and talc is a rock. It's a mineral that can be mined out of the ground, and there are mines throughout the world. And one of the talc mines at issue is in Italy. But there are other issues, and I don't want to get deep into it. I don't want to become polarizing on the topic. Really, it's just to educate you about the fact that the plaintiffs are alleging within those talc mines, talc is not asbestos. Asbestos is its own mineral that can contaminate a talc mine. And here the plaintiffs are saying that Johnson & Johnson knew that there was asbestos contamination and either hid it or didn't disclose that there might be asbestos in your Johnson & Johnson baby powder. And they have a lot of defenses, and they take issue with saying that there's asbestos in the talc, and obviously the plaintiffs say no, there definitely was. And so that $4.7 billion verdict was the result of that. Now there's also, within talc litigation, a couple of different ways that can go. For the $4.7 billion verdict, that was for ovarian cancer. So it's women saying that they use talc throughout their life, and it's caused by the asbestos contaminating the talc that gave them ovarian cancer. And that is relatively new litigation. Ovarian cancer isn't typically something you would think of as caused by asbestos, but that's mostly because asbestos would typically be breathed in by a worker who was using it in the construction trades. So you wouldn't think of it as applying directly to a female who would have asbestos in her ovaries. Then there's also mesothelioma. Because of how the body works, you can absorb asbestos and it can work its way to different parts of the body. So you could also get mesothelioma from using talc, baby powder, because the asbestos bodies would work their way up to the lungs or the lining of the stomach. And so that's two different areas of litigation. So I've had cases where somebody says, I don't remember being around any construction products. I was never in the construction industry. I don't know why I have mesothelioma. And then when I asked about talc, oh, well, yeah, I use talc every day. So that's a case of talc, of mesothelioma from talc that we have filed and we're pursuing. I personally have not done any talc ovarian cancers, but I haven't had any come my way yet. I'm not saying that we wouldn't look into it, and I think that very well may be an area that a lot of attorneys will go into in the future as it plays out. There's a lot of documents, millions of documents that have to be reviewed, and that some of the attorneys have already gone through. So it evolves just like anything else. Everything always changes and grows, and you see which areas are worthwhile looking into. But I hope that gives you a somewhat of an understanding of talc litigation and why you hear about talc all the time. Essentially, it's contaminated or potentially allegedly contaminated with asbestos and can cause either ovarian cancer or mesothelioma. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday and the weekend. It looks like a beautiful weekend is shaping up. And be safe, be warm. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.